Hello everyone. My name is David, and I'm here with Motas, and we are going to share with you a project that we developed in Nordic Semiconductor. What we did was that we developed a virtual prototype of a system and chip from Nordic that could be used to replace physical boards during software testing. First of all, we're going to start by describing what is a virtual prototype. And a virtual prototype is basically a software model of a physical hardware system. And this model describes the system at a higher abstraction level while keeping the same functionality. Virtual prototypes simplify hardware design exploration, and they enable concurrent hardware and software development, which can end up reducing the time to market, which is critical nowadays, save resources, find and fix bugs earlier, improve test coverage, and it can even improve the teamwork between hardware engineers, software developers, and testers. Even though virtual prototypes are not new, have been around for quite a bit, this methodology has not been widely adopted in the IoT industry. And this work wants to demonstrate that virtual prototypes can be a valuable resource during the development cycle of IoT products, and then they can dramatically speed up the embedded software testing process.
Okay, so moving to the software testing methodology, the system that we used for this project were made by Nordic Semiconductor, and we're going to explain a bit more about the testing methodology that's already used by the company. So embedded software and IoT applications are usually complex, including thousands of lines of code, which require an extensive testing process. And the testing methodology used at Nordic consists of two stages: unit testing and target testing, and they are divided based on their goal and the platform which they run on. Unit testing, the tests are executed on host PC and require no physical target device. And the goal of these tests is to evaluate the logic of the software itself. While with target testing, on the other hand, the tests require a physical target device, like development boards, to execute these tests. The goal of this testing stage is to verify the correct communication between different boards or different modules of the same system.
So jumping now into the virtual prototype architecture. So as I mentioned, the idea of this model is to replace the boards that are normally used for software testing. So in other words, we want to get rid of this hardware dependability, right? So this is an overview of the virtual prototype that we developed. It has a CPU model, an interconnect element, and several peripheral models. These peripherals involve peripherals such as a clock controller, a real-time clock, a timer, a GPIO peripheral, a radio peripheral, and a temperature sensor peripheral. The CPU model does not model the instruction-set architecture, and instead it provides a functional model. And the main goal of the CPU is to initiate TLM read and write transactions to the different components of the system. The interconnect element acts as a bridge between the components of the system and creates a channel for TLM transactions. And finally, the peripherals. The peripheral models are based on Nordic Semiconductor's product specifications, and the abstraction level of the peripherals depends mostly on the use by the software tests that run in the virtual prototype. We have a subset of the software tests that are able to execute on top of this platform, and that's why we have several abstraction levels for the peripherals, and that's also the reason why we have only modeled some of the peripherals of the SoC, only the ones that were required to successfully execute this subset of software tests that we work with.
Okay, so a bit about the results. After implementing the virtual prototype, we ran some of the target tests that are already used by the testing team, and we measure the execution time of the virtual prototype and compare it against the execution time uh, needed to run the same tests on development boards. The execution time for the target test include solely the execution time of the test itself. It does not include the time needed to erase and flash the software testing to the development boards. While the execution time for the virtual prototype, it has been obtained by inserting time points in the constructor and the destructor of the top level of the system model. The results are summarized in the following table, showing that the speedup obtained from the use of virtual prototype compared to the development boards for all the tests that are used. And on average, we have a speed of around 150 time um, for the tests. The results also shows an improvement in the observability of the interaction between the hardware and the software, where it was limited to the test name, the test status, and the execution time in the target test. And it has been extended to capture all the actions of hardware in the virtual prototype. And this is allowed in the virtual prototype due to its configurability to log data, the data and addresses of any register that's being accessed, as well as other important events like turning on and off some of the peripherals, starting a counter, or enabling and disabling an interrupt. The timestamp of these actions is also logged, allowing for timing analysis to be performed if desired. In addition to that, the observability is also beneficial to the architecture design engineers in the early stages of the design, allowing them to find bugs and make architecture improvements. For example, this could be used to identify if a certain register is being accessed frequently, and based on that, the system could be modified to provide a better performance.
Regarding the limitations of this work, well, for virtual prototypes in general, it is hard to prove complete equivalency between the real device and the virtual prototype. And this is quite an interesting topic of discussion. Regarding this specific model, one limitation is that the CPU model is very simple. This model is not able to run the exact same code that will run on a development board. So, for example, software tests that are going to run on top of the virtual platform, they require to replace all the hardware accesses to the boards with accesses to the virtual prototype. So therefore, including a full CPU model would allow to compile the exact same code that would run on a board and use it on the virtual prototype. This kind of model will, of course, improve the accuracy, but it could also negatively impact the software execution speedup. Another limitation is that software execution is not cycle accurate, again, due to the high level of abstraction that this prototype represents, and this is related to the last point. And finally, this virtual prototype was designed and was not intended to model certain behaviors. For example, wireless link between two devices and all the aspects this involves, like noise and other communication channel conditions, were out of the scope of this work.
In conclusion, and to summarize this presentation, this work demonstrates that the virtual prototypes are strong tools and resources to speed up the software testing and process in IoT industry. It eliminates the hardware dependency, allowing for earlier development and testing, improving quality, and reduced time to market of new products. The virtual prototype delivers valuable hardware observability during the software execution, which allows for hardware architecture teams to use this data to improve their designs and make a better architectural decisions. Thank you all for listening to our presentations. Feel free to ask your questions. I will be around to answer them.